She stood at the gate, stomach burning, pride already broken. Her voice shook as she asked, "Please, can I clean your house for food?" What she didn't know, someone inside was watching her very carefully. And that moment was about to change every life connected to her forever. Her feet were swollen from walking since dawn, the kind of swelling that made every step feel like stepping on hot stones. The city of Lagos never slowed for anyone, not for hunger, not for heartbreak, not for a woman carrying the weight of too many disappointments in one thin body. The sun sat high, brutal and unapologetic, glinting off rusted zinc roofs and half-finished buildings like it was mocking anyone who dared hope for mercy. Her name was Abeni Adeyemi, and she had not eaten since yesterday morning. The smell of fried plantain floated through the air from a roadside stall, sharp and cruel. Her stomach twisted painfully, making a sound she prayed nobody could hear. Hunger had a way of humiliating you, turning your own body into an enemy. She slowed her steps, pressing a hand against her belly as if that could quiet the ache. By the time she reached the tall black gate on Adesanya Street, her dignity had already been argued with, insulted, and defeated. The houses on that street were not like the ones she grew up around. These were tall, clean, guarded by walls topped with broken glass and electric wires. Houses where generators hummed softly even during power outages, where dogs ate better than some humans. She stood outside one of them now, staring at the polished gate, her reflection faint but visible, dusty dress, cracked slippers, eyes dulled by exhaustion. She raised her hand, then dropped it. She raised it again. The gate camera blinked red. She swallowed hard. "God," she whispered, not sure whether she was praying or apologizing. She knocked. At first, there was no response. Just the distant noise of traffic and the laughter of children somewhere far away, children who probably didn't know what it felt like to count hours by hunger pains. She knocked again, softer this time. A voice came through the intercom, female, sharp, suspicious. "Yes." "Who is there?" Abeni's throat tightened. Her voice came out thinner than she expected. "Good afternoon, Ma," she said, forcing respect into every syllable. "Please. I'm sorry to disturb you. I was just wondering if I could clean your house for food." There was silence. Long, uncomfortable silence. She could almost hear her own heartbeat. Then the gate clicked slightly, not opening, just enough to signal attention. The woman's voice returned, colder now. "For food," the woman repeated, like she was tasting the words with disgust. "Yes, Ma," Abeni said quickly. "I can sweep, wash clothes, clean toilets, anything. I won't take much time. I just need something to eat." Inside the compound, Mrs. Ifunanya Okeke stood with her arms folded, lips pressed tight. She was a woman who believed suffering was usually self-inflicted. She had worked hard, married well, and climbed her way into comfort. To her, hunger was a sign of laziness. She pressed the button again. "Go and look for work somewhere else," she snapped. "This is not a charity." The intercom went dead. Abeni stood there, staring at the gate like it might reopen out of pity. It didn't. She turned slowly, shame burning hotter than the sun. She had known this could happen. She had expected it. And yet, it still cut deep. She walked away, each step heavier than the last. But she didn't know that from an upstairs window inside that same house, someone else had been watching. A man stood quietly behind sheer curtains, his expression unreadable. His name was Tunde Okeke, and unlike his wife, he had not grown up with comfort. He knew hunger intimately. He knew the sound a stomach made when it had nothing left to digest. He watched the woman outside walk away, shoulders slumped, head bowed, and something stirred inside him, something uncomfortable, something familiar. "Who was that?" he asked when his wife entered the living room. "A beggar," Ifunanya replied dismissively. "These people are everywhere now. Always asking." Tunde didn't respond. He only nodded and turned back toward the window, but Abeni was already gone. Abeni walked until the street blurred. The city noise faded into a dull roar in her ears. Memories began to surface, uninvited and painful. She had not always been this desperate. She grew up in a Caire village, where mornings smelled of wet earth and palm oil, where neighbors greeted each other by name. Her mother used to wake her before sunrise to fetch water from the stream, singing old Yoruba songs as they walked. Her father was a farmer who believed in honesty more than profit. They were poor, yes, but they ate. Until sickness came. Her mother fell ill first. Then her father. Hospital bills swallowed everything they owned. Land was sold. Goats disappeared. When both parents were gone within one cruel year, Abeni was left with nothing but grief and a belief that the city held answers. Lagos, she had thought, would save her. Instead, Lagos taught her how quickly dreams could starve. She found work as a housemaid at first. The madam was kind, until her son wasn't. When Abeni spoke up about the hands that lingered too long, the woman accused her of lying, of trying to destroy her family. She was thrown out that same night. No pay, no apology. Then came the factory job. Long hours, little money. When she refused the supervisor's advances, her name disappeared from the schedule. Hunger followed her like a shadow. Now, she sat on a broken curb near a busy junction, tears slipping down her cheeks without sound. Crying loudly wouldn't help. Lagos didn't stop for tears. A young boy selling sachet water paused near her. "Auntie, you okay?" he asked softly. She managed a weak smile. "I'm fine." He didn't believe her, but he nodded and walked away. Kindness, in this city, often came with distance. That evening, Abeni slept under the open sky behind an unfinished building, her body curled tight, arms wrapped around herself. Hunger woke her several times, sharp and insistent. She dreamed of her mother's cooking, of steaming rice and groundnut soup, and woke with tears on her lips. Morning came without mercy. By noon the next day, desperation pushed her back onto the streets. She moved through neighborhoods carefully now, choosing houses that looked lived in but not cruel. Each rejection chipped away at her pride. By late afternoon, she found herself standing before another gate, white this time, tall and quiet. She hesitated. Then she knocked. This time, the gate opened. A woman in her early 30s stood there, eyes scanning Abeni from head to toe. Her name was Zainab Musa, a widow struggling under the weight of her own problems. "Yes?" Zainab asked. Abeni bowed her head slightly. "Please, Ma, can I clean your house for food?" Zainab studied her face, really looked at her. The hunger wasn't hidden. Neither was the exhaustion. "Come in," Zainab said finally. Abeni's knees almost gave way in relief. Inside the compound, the house was modest but neat. Abeni worked without stopping, sweeping, scrubbing, washing. Every movement carried urgency, gratitude. Zainab watched her quietly, conflicted. When the food finally came, a plate of rice and stew, Abeni ate slowly, respectfully, fighting tears with every bite. "Thank you," she whispered. Zainab nodded. "You can rest for a bit." But neither of them knew that kindness, too, had consequences. Because someone had seen Abeni enter that house. Abeni slept that night on a thin mat in the corner of Zainab's sitting room, her body exhausted in a way sleep could barely fix. Her stomach was full for the first time in days, but her mind refused to rest. Hunger left scars that food alone could not heal. Even as sleep came, it was shallow, broken by memories and fear. Fear of waking up and being asked to leave, fear of kindness ending suddenly, the way it always seemed to. Morning prayers drifted through the neighborhood before dawn. The soft call echoed between houses, mixing with the distant hum of generators and the occasional bark of a dog. Abeni woke before Zainab, folded her mat neatly, and began sweeping the compound without being asked. It was how she had survived before, by making herself useful before anyone could decide she was not worth keeping. Zainab watched her from the doorway, tying her headscarf. "You don't have to do that yet," she said. Abeni paused, broom still in hand. "I don't mind, Ma. I'm grateful." Zainab sighed. Gratitude was heavy. It carried obligation, and she already had too much of that in her life. Since her husband died in a road accident 2 years earlier, everything felt like a balancing act. Work, bills, loneliness, suspicion from relatives who believed a woman alone must be hiding something. "Sit," Zainab said. "Let's talk." They sat on the veranda, the morning air still cool. Zainab poured tea into chipped cups. "What's your name?" she asked. "Abeni," she replied. "Where are you from?" "Ikayr village," Abeni said. "Osun state." Zainab nodded slowly. "And how did you end up here?" Abeni hesitated. Stories like hers were often interrupted with judgment. But something in Zainab's eyes, tired, not cruel, made her speak. She told her everything. The village. Her parents. Lagos. The jobs. The hands that touched when they shouldn't have. The hunger. Zainab listened in silence, jaw tightening at certain parts. "Men can be animals," she muttered. Abeni didn't respond. She had learned not all men were the same, but enough were dangerous to make caution feel like survival. "You can stay for a few days," Zainab said finally. "Help around the house. I'll give you food. Maybe some small money." Abeni's eyes filled instantly. "Thank you, Ma. Thank you." "Don't thank me too much," Zainab said softly. "Life has a way of collecting its debts." Across the city, in a quiet office lined with dark wood and framed certificates, Tundo Keke sat behind his desk, but his mind was elsewhere. Since the day he saw Abeni at his gate, her face had refused to leave him alone. It wasn't just pity, it was recognition. She reminded him of his younger sister, Bizi, who had come to Lagos years ago chasing work and never returned home alive. Officially, she died of illness. Unofficially, Tund knew better. His wife, Ifyananya, entered the office without knocking. "You're quiet lately," she said. "Work problem?" "No," Tund replied. She studied him. "Then what?" "Nothing," he lied. Ifyananya had always sensed when things slipped beyond her control. She was a woman who liked order, her house, her marriage, her image. A husband distracted by invisible concerns made her uneasy. "Well," she said sharply, "my cousin is coming next week. I expect the house to be spotless." Tund nodded absently. She left, annoyed. Tund leaned back, rubbing his face. He had power now, money, connections, influence. But power came with ghosts. And Abeni's face had stirred one he thought he buried long ago. Days passed at Zainab's house. Abeni worked quietly, efficiently. Neighbors began to notice her. "Is she your new help?" one asked. "For now," Zainab replied vaguely. Abeni kept her head down. Attention could be dangerous. But not all eyes watching her meant harm. One afternoon, as Abeni returned from the market carrying a small bag of vegetables, a black SUV slowed beside her. The window rolled down. It was Tund. "Excuse me," he said gently. "Please, have we met before?" Abeni froze. Her instincts screamed danger. Men in cars asking questions rarely brought good news. "I don't think so, sir," she replied cautiously. He studied her face more closely now. "I saw you some days ago. At my house." Her heart dropped. She remembered the gate. The rejection. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I didn't mean any trouble." "You didn't," Tund said. "I should have handled that better." She didn't know what to say. "Where are you staying now?" he asked. "That's my business," she replied softly, but firmly. Tund smiled faintly. "Fair enough. I didn't mean to scare you." He handed her a folded note. "Take this." She hesitated. "Please," he said. "No strings." After a long pause, she accepted it. "Thank you, sir," she said, then walked away without looking back. Inside the note was money. More than she had seen in weeks. That night, Abeni cried quietly into her pillow. Gratitude mixed with fear. Why would a stranger care? Zainab noticed the change immediately. "You're distracted," she said one evening as they cooked together. Abeni hesitated, then told her about the man. Zainab stiffened. A rich man. Yes. Be careful, Zainab warned. Help from men like that is rarely free. I know, Abeni said. But he didn't ask for anything. That's how it starts. Across town, Ifeanyi discovered the truth by accident. A receipt left in Tun's jacket pocket. A bank alert. Small things, but she knew how to read between lines. She confronted him that night. Who is she? She demanded. Tun frowned. Who? The girl you're sending money to. Silence fell between them. She's just someone in need, Tun said finally. Ifeanyi laughed bitterly. Is that what you call it now? This is not about you, he snapped, surprising even himself. Her eyes narrowed. Everything you do is about me. Or it should be. The argument exploded, words thrown like knives. Accusations. Old resentments. In the end, Ifeanyi stormed out of the room with one clear intention. If her husband was hiding something, she would uncover it. And if someone was threatening her home, even unknowingly, she would destroy them. Meanwhile, in Zainab's house, Abeni sat alone in the small room she now used, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in months, she felt something dangerous. Hope. And hope, she knew, could be the most painful thing of all. Hope has a way of making people careless. It loosens the grip of fear just enough for trouble to slip in unnoticed. Abeni felt it in small ways at first, the way she slept a little deeper, the way she laughed once without forcing it, the way she began to imagine tomorrow as something other than a repetition of survival. Zainab noticed too. You're smiling these days, she said one evening as they folded laundry together. Abeni paused, fingers gripping a damp shirt. Am I? Yes, Zainab replied. Be careful with that. Abeni nodded, though she didn't fully understand. How could smiling be dangerous? The answer arrived 2 days later. It was a Saturday afternoon when the gate slammed open without warning. A woman stepped inside with authority, dressed in crisp ankara, gold earrings catching the sunlight. Her posture announced ownership of every space she entered. Ifeanyi Okeke. Zainab stepped out immediately. Yes. Can I help you? Ifeanyi's eyes swept the compound, then landed on Abeni, who stood frozen near the clothesline. So this is where you're hiding, Ifeanyi said calmly. Abeni's heart pounded. She had never seen this woman before, but something in her tone told her this was not a misunderstanding. Hiding from what, madam? Zainab asked sharply. Ifeanyi smiled, thin and practiced. From my husband. Zainab's expression hardened. You're mistaken. I don't know your husband. You know the girl, Ifeanyi replied, pointing at Abeni without looking away from Zainab. And she knows him. Abeni's voice shook. Please, ma, I swear. Silence, Ifeanyi snapped, finally turning her gaze to her fully. I have been watching you. Watching how you appear from nowhere, collecting sympathy like spare change. Zainab stepped forward. You will not speak to her like that in my house. Ifeanyi laughed softly. Your house. Or the house you think is yours. The tension grew thick, the air heavy with unspoken threats. My husband is not a charity, Ifeanyi continued. And I don't share. Zainab crossed her arms. Then you should speak to your husband, not harass a hungry woman. That struck something. Ifeanyi's face darkened. Hungry women have teeth, she said. And they know how to bite. She stepped closer to Abeni, lowering her voice. Stay away from what doesn't belong to you. Or Lagos will teach you a lesson you won't forget. Then she turned and walked out, leaving silence behind like debris. Abeni collapsed onto the bench, shaking. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know. Zainab exhaled slowly, anger burning in her eyes. You didn't do anything wrong. But trouble has found you. That night, Abeni couldn't sleep. Every sound made her jump. She felt exposed, like the city had finally noticed her existence and decided to punish her for it. She thought of leaving before dawn, disappearing again. But she didn't. Because hunger had taught her something too. Running endlessly only led back to the same emptiness. Across town, Tund returned home to find the house silent in a way that felt hostile. Ifeanyi sat in the living room, waiting. "You embarrassed me," he said quietly. "I protected my home," she replied. "You threatened an innocent woman." "She is not innocent," Ifeanyi snapped. "No woman approaches a married man without intention." Tund's voice rose. "She approached a gate asking for food. That's how it begins." He stared at her, finally seeing something he had avoided for years. "You don't see people," he said. "You see threats." She laughed bitterly. "And you see guilt where there should be loyalty." The argument ended without resolution. Like many things in their marriage, it simply rotted in silence. The next morning, Abeni left Zainab's house early, needing air, space, answers. She walked without direction until the city thinned into quieter streets. That was when she heard her name. "Abeni!" She turned. Tund stood a few steps away, concern written openly on his face. "My wife came to your place," he said. "Yes," Abeni replied. She made her message clear. "I'm sorry," he said sincerely. "I never wanted this." "I didn't ask for your help," Abeni said, not unkindly. "I only asked for food." "I know," he replied. "That's why this hurts." They stood there, two strangers bound by circumstance and pain. "You remind me of someone," Tund said softly. "My sister." Abeni listened as he told her about Beezy. About promises Lagos had broken. About regret that never aged. "I couldn't save her," he said. "But maybe I can save you." Abeni shook her head. "I don't need saving." "What do you need?" She thought for a long moment. "Work," she said. "Real work. Something that doesn't come with fear." Tund nodded slowly. "I can help with that." She met his eyes. No secrets. No pity. Agreed. But Lagos does not allow clean beginnings without resistance. Word spread faster than truth. Whispers grew teeth. Abeni became a name spoken with suspicion in markets and compounds. "That's the girl," someone said. "The one chasing married men." Zainab defended her fiercely, but even she began to feel the weight of judgment pressing in. One evening, Zainab came home unusually quiet. "My landlord called today," she said. Abeni's chest tightened. "What did he say?" "He says neighbors are complaining." Abeni nodded slowly. "I'll leave." Zainab protested. "No, you." "I won't be the reason you lose your home," Abeni said. "I've already taken enough." They hugged for a long time. Two women bound not by blood, but by shared endurance. That night, Abeni packed her few belongings. Before dawn, she left. But she did not disappear. Because this time, she was walking toward something, not away from it. When Abeni left Zainab's house before sunrise, the sky was still pale, undecided about becoming day. Lagos looked different at that hour, quieter, almost gentle, like it was pretending not to be the same city that swallowed dreams by noon. She walked with her small bag slung over one shoulder, heart heavy but steady. This time, she was not running in panic. She was choosing distance. By mid-morning, she reached a bus park on the edge of the city, the kind of place where people waited not just for transport but for direction. Traders shouted destinations. Engines coughed black smoke. Life moved on without apology. She sat on a bench, watching people pass, some with purpose, some pretending. She wondered which one she looked like. Her phone buzzed. A number she didn't recognize. It was Tund. "I heard you left," he said without greeting. "Yes," Abeni replied calmly. "Where are you now?" "Somewhere quiet." He exhaled. "Please don't disappear." "I kept my word." There's work. She hesitated. Trust was a risk she could barely afford. But hunger had taught her something else too. Independence sometimes required allies. "What kind of work?" she asked. "A catering company I help fund," Tun said. "Run by women. Real pay. No favors." Silence stretched. "I won't hide," Abeni said finally. "And I won't lie." "You won't need to," Tund replied. The catering company was located in Ajij, far from luxury but rich in movement. Large aluminum pots, the smell of pepper and onions, women laughing even while sweat soaked their clothes. It reminded Abeni of village weddings, hard work mixed with music and gossip. The owner, Mama Ronk, was a thick-set woman with sharp eyes and a voice that commanded respect. "You can cook?" she asked Abeni bluntly. "Yes," Abeni replied. "And I can learn." Mama Ronk nodded. "Learning is better than pride. Start tomorrow." For the first time in months, Abeni smiled without fear. Work was hard, but it was honest. She woke before dawn, tied her headscarf, and returned home tired but full. Money came slowly, but it came clean. She rented a small room with cracked walls and a leaking tap, and it felt like a palace. Hope grew again, but this time it was grounded. Ifeanyi, meanwhile, was unraveling. She watched her husband from a distance now, suspicion feeding on silence. When she learned the truth, that Abeni worked at Mama Ronk's place, anger twisted into something else. Shame. Not because she had been wrong, but because the girl had survived her. Ifeanyi prided herself on control, and nothing haunted her more than something she failed to destroy. One afternoon, she drove to Ajij herself. She stood across the street, watching the women cook, watching Abeni move confidently among them. The girl looked different. Stronger. Something inside Ifeanyi cracked. She remembered her own beginnings. A poor girl once. Hungry once. Forgotten once. She drove away without being seen. That night, she confronted Tund again, but this time, her voice lacked fire. "I went there," she said quietly. "And?" he asked. "She's working," Ifeanyi admitted. "She's not what I thought." Tund said nothing. "I was wrong," she added, the words tasting bitter. "But don't mistake this for forgiveness. I'm still your wife." "I never asked you not to be," Tund replied. For the first time, the silence between them felt honest. Months passed. Abeni saved money. Slowly. Carefully. She sent some back to a Kair village, to an old aunt who had once shared her last meal with her. She learned new recipes. New confidence. Love did not come suddenly. It crept. Not with Tund, but with Sola, a delivery driver who joked too much and listened deeply. He knew her past without trying to rewrite it. He didn't rescue her. He walked beside her. One evening, as they sat on a low wall watching traffic crawl like tired ants, Sola asked, "Do you still believe hunger defines a person?" Abeni thought for a long moment. "No," she said. "But it reveals them." Life, however, demanded balance. Mama Ronk fell ill suddenly. Bills rose. Orders slowed. The business struggled. The women panicked. Abeni stepped up. She organized. She negotiated. She spoke with confidence she didn't know she owned. When Mama Ronk returned weeks later, weaker but alive, she found her business still standing. "You saved it," Mama Ronk said quietly. "No," Abeni replied. "It saved me first." The day Abeni returned to Adesanya Street, she did not come begging. She came delivering food. A charity event organized by the catering company. When the gate opened, Mrs. Ifeanyi Okeke stood frozen. Their eyes met. No anger. No apology. Just truth. Abeni handed her the package respectfully. "Good afternoon, Ma." Ifeanyi accepted it slowly. "You've done well," she said, surprising herself. Abeni smiled gently. "So have you. In your own way." As she walked away, Ifeanyi felt something unfamiliar. Peace. Years later, when Abeni told her story to younger girls at community programs, she always paused at one point. "The day I asked to clean a house for food," she would say, "was not my weakest moment. It was my bravest." She never mentioned names. She never needed to, because survival had already spoken for her.